Welcome to the Backseat Thriver podcast. I'm Christina Johnston.
And I'm Bridget Kostas.
And we really think you guys should listen because we think we're pretty funny.
We are pretty funny.
Yeah.
We're unfiltered. It's real. It's sometimes what you need to hear.
Sometimes what you don't.
But tune in.
Tune in. That was good.
That works.
Hello. Happy Friday.
Good morning.
Good
How
morning,
are you?
Thrivers. How's your...
Good morning, besties.
Good morning, besties. How's your week?
It's Friday. It's over.
Friday is the best day of the week for the obvious reasons, but because we get to podcast.
This is true.
So
and I'm super excited because my new college boy, he's coming home for the weekend.
Oh, boy.
I know.
You're going to have to send us pictures of your reunion.
I know. It's my reunion has been 3 weeks.
You're pathetic.
He's not coming home to see us. He's coming home to see his girlfriend, which I'll totally take a few hours out of it, so I don't care.
You know, I feel like we really need to talk to a therapist about this.
Do
and
you?
Find out if, is this normal? I mean,
For him or for me?
Well, mostly you. I mean, if we're being honest here.
Well,
what?
shall we?
We shall.
Shall we talk to a therapist?
Oh my gosh, let's get a therapist on the line.
Let's get a therapist on the line. Oh, wait, she's in the room.
What?
What? Welcome back, Emily.
Hi. This is our first repeat guest.
She liked us that much.
Yeah. I mean, we had Joe on a couple. He helped Whoa.
Just pressure.
Oh, pressure. Okay, good. I hope it's pressure.
Oh, yeah.
So, guys, you'll
That we
recall-
gave her to return?
Absolutely.
She couldn't say no?
Yeah,
She felt
we didn't
bad?
allow it. It's not allowed. So we have with us Emily Fenton, LCSW. And Emily, remind our guests a little bit about, I could go off about you and your qualifications, but tell us a little bit about the type of work that you do, who you are, and then we're just going to start peppering you with questions because, Bridget, of course, already brought up her son going off to college.
Hey, that's important.
It is important.
Yeah.
See, Bridget, she already validated you.
She did.
This is amazing.
Yay for A's, and he got to college.
That's right.
That
You
always
did something
helped.
right.
I did.
You got him out of the house. You did something right.
We're so proud
Amen,
of you.
sister. Amen.
So proud of you. All right, Emily, so tell us a little bit about you.
So I am a mental health therapist. I work with kids and families and kids that range up from 6 years old to my kids that are 23 years old. So not so much kids, but yeah, I have a private practice and I'm happy to be back with you guys today.
Yay. Well, thank you for being here because we've got a lot of questions and we're hoping you've got answers for us.
All right, let's do it.
So, Bridget, September is a month of many things, but it is also
Suicide Awareness Month.
Suicide Awareness Month.
Yes, it is.
So we're going to be talking a little bit about mental health with kids. Emily's going to be helping us kind of figure out what are the things we should be looking for if we have concerns. And then I also have a lot of questions just about dealing with kids who have anxiety and sort of this day and age, what that looks like and how we're helping set our kids up for success. And then we're also going to talk about that inner voice that can be so freaking mean sometimes. I want to see, I wish that we were in a room with a bunch of people so that I could see, does anyone have a kind inner voice in their head? Is yours always telling you what a fat piece of crap you are?
No, but it's always telling me that there's somebody out to get me. Watch out. Get
Which
your
is also
Kubaton.
mean as well.
Get your Kubaton. Get your Kubaton. Somebody's about to get you.
Hide your purse.
But
things are happening.
I do have my little inner fat girl. She's always telling me get that extra slice of pizza. You know what?
She sounds wise.
You
Get it, girl.
you should stop by Taco Bell today. So
She sounds great.
She
sounds great. I want her.
She is great. Okay, so true story. So talking about our inner fat girl. So I had not had Taco Bell in probably Gosh, I could easily say like 10 years.
Good.
It's been like 10 years. Okay, right? Okay.
I didn't really mean that's a great inner voice for the record.
So a girlfriend of mine came over and she had pit stopped by Taco Bell and she brought me a taco supreme and just the one taco. And she was like, hey, I brought you a taco. And I was like, from Taco Bell? And this is a girl that usually eats like very clean, like doesn't do a whole lot of eating out. And I was like, you eat Taco Bell? She's like, oh yeah, I eat Taco Bell. I was like, all right, let's do this. So what I took the taco out and then I realized for the next 5 minutes, I did not make eye contact. I did not talk. I literally devoured this taco as if I had never eaten anything in my life. And it was so good.
Was it?
And she just looked at me and she was like, how's she feeling right now? And I was like, she's feeling so good. She's so happy right now. But it was like, and I told my husband about it. I was like, when was the last time you had a Taco Supreme? He's like, God, it's been years.
Good.
I was like, well, my kids Uber Taco Bell all the time at like 2 o'clock in the morning. And I'm like, wise choice. Wise choice. I
know what you're up to.
I now get it.
That's
the
funny.
Taco Supreme.
Tell me you're drunk without telling me you're drunk.
There you go.
Checking the Uber log. Yeah.
All right. So let's get into it. Let's get into the real stuff. All right. Well,
we'll just leave that up.
I'll just hold it like this the whole time. All right.
We'll just hold that up. Just,
all right. So
just
put it like this.
There you go.
All right. So, Emily, September, Suicide Awareness Month. Let us in on what are the things we should be paying attention to. How I think one of the things parents struggle with a lot is how do you actually recognize when your child is in crisis? I know for myself, my kid will say or do stuff and I'm like, oh my gosh, he's just being dramatic or whatever. How do you know when this is real? What should we be doing?
It's really hard because I work with a lot of families and a lot of times parents come at me with these really concerning questions where my kid brought up something or is this for shock value or is this real? And it's really hard to know what's kind of that difference and do I minimize this? Do I give it too much attention, not enough attention? And what I always encourage parents when it comes to safety, when it comes to suicidal ideations, anything like that, you want to be a part of that conversation. You do not want your kid to be having those internal thoughts and beliefs by themselves. You want to be able to add in some of your influence and some of your kind of perspective on this. And then you really want to be able to say, are you okay? Do you need some help? And that's typically what we see with a lot of kids when they're talking about, I'm not feeling really good or something feels off or I'm wanting to hurt myself. And that's amazing if you have a kid that really can talk to you about that because whether it's for attention or not, they're wanting to bring that into your kind of scope, into your, your sort of awareness that like something feels off. So what I recommend that parents do is you want to just pay attention to signs. And is there anything that you've noticed your kid is doing differently lately? Are they isolating more? Are they being by themselves? Are they being excluded from friends? Are they not wanting to get out of bed? You want to pay attention and be aware of signs and symptoms of depression and, anxiety, obviously. And then you want to just try to be able to pay attention to that and talk to your kid about it and say, hey, I've noticed that you seem like you're isolating a little bit more, or I noticed that your friend Joe's not coming around. Is everything going okay? Try to do some of those check-ins and they might shut you down and say, I don't want to talk to you about this. And you just say, okay, I'm here if you change your mind. So those are really nice statements to keep reminding your kid, I'm here if you need me. It gives them that sense of control, but it also lets them know I see you. And when you're ready, let me know. And so if you have a kid that is bringing up suicide to you or saying, hey, I feel like hurting myself or killing myself, it's really important to be able to have sort of a plan in your pocket of how would we address that. And so a lot of ways, I don't know if I'm just rambling now about this.
Great.
No, this is helpful.
A lot of ways that I encourage parents to do that is by, asking if they have a plan, if they have any means, or if there is any intent to actually follow through on that. And then if they're really serious about it, you can say, do we need to talk to a professional or a provider? And then, making sure that you can kind of monitor that yourself. And I'm saying
let
a
me
lot. Yeah,
let me
jump
ask a
in.
question.
I'm going on a
because
rant.
Okay, so when you say things, and I don't know if this, Bridget, we've talked a little bit about is therapy making us sicker, and I think that's like a whole other rabbit hole we'll go down another time. But what you just said, I want you to clarify, because to me, I think that would make me nervous, being like, okay, do you have a plan? Like, you're asking, do you have a plan? What would you do? All of these things. That's not planting a seed and like making the kid think more about it and going, oh, well, shoot, maybe I wasn't serious, but she's asking me, how would I do it? That makes me so nervous.
Yeah, and let me back up, because you're right. Thank you for bringing that back up, because that is really sort of, kind of next steps with that. But if you have a kid that's talking to you about wanting to hurt themselves, you want to just start. Sorry, I'm totally losing my train of thought on this.
Because I want to react.
Yeah.
And I think if and, I'm blessed to say that none of my children have come to me with that type of commentary or concern, but I feel that I would react. I feel that it would be like, oh my God, why would you say that? Oh my gosh, why are you thinking this way? What did I do? What happened? What's going on in your life? And I don't know if I could be as calm as to...
Right, quietly be like, okay, let's talk about this. I'd be like, what?
Tell me more.
Yes,
because your heart drops in your stomach.
It does drop. And then what ends up happening is we end up wanting to instantly control that narrative for your kids, saying, do not think about this. This is really scary. This is really serious. Don't say that unless you mean it.
Yeah.
Why would you say that? So we instantly want to go in as parent mode and just make sure that, shut that out of your head. You don't need to be thinking about that. That's not what our family does, or that's really scary.
That's selfish.
And then guess what your kid does? They go, oh, okay, I can't talk to mom about this. And then all of a sudden they start to internalize these thoughts and these beliefs. And so what I talk to parents about is you want to be a part of that conversation again, because whether or not you're a part of it, your kid is a part of it. They're thinking about it. They're internalizing something feels off. I don't feel safe. And who do I talk to about it? Yeah. So if you jump in and minimize and say, don't think about that, or you shut that down, they're going to say, okay, mom or dad is not safe to talk to you about this. Yeah. And then guess what they're going to do? They're going to go online, or they're going to talk to, ChatGPT or AI, or talk to somebody else that also feels that way. And then they're going to share, which is okay. The connection part is really important for them to be heard. But as a parent, you want to be a part of that conversation. You do not want your kids sitting alone in their room, bed rotting all day, thinking about these thoughts. You want to be a part of that.
And I think too, Emma, you see story after story after story of parents commenting, I had no idea. I had no idea. Yeah. And then I found, I went into their phone, I went into their search history, and I found all these things. I had no idea there were no signs.
Totally.
And I think, I'm not making an excuse, but I think that this next generation they are very secluded. They are in their rooms more. They are on their devices more. They do, isolate themselves so much more than we did in our youth, that it's like, oh, okay, well, this is, does your kid do that? And they're talking amongst, each other, and like, oh yeah, my kid does it too. They're always on their devices. They're always on social media. They're always, doing whatever digitally. And it's like, okay, well, this is kind of the new norm of this generation. So how do you know, like, okay, they're depressed because they're staying in their room all the time? Well, they all stay in their room. Yeah. Oh, they're sleeping in. Yeah, but they're a teenager, so of course they sleep in.
We minimize. We constantly normalize and minimize that, oh, this is how it is. And so I talk to parents. I say, do you want this to be your new norm? Like,
no.
Do you want your kid to be on their phone for 8 hours a day because all their friends are, And so there is, the pendulum, I think, is swinging a bit, because I think more parents are saying, hey, this isn't right. We don't like this. But how do we steer into it, or how do you steer away? And I say it's all about balance. I don't want you to steer away from it because it's not going anywhere. Technology is not going anywhere. Social media is not going anywhere. And so we need to educate our kids. We need to be a part of that influence. Again, you cannot control your kid. Your job is not to control your kid. It is to influence your kid and be a part of these conversations and help them be aware of how do you feel when you sit on social media for 5 hours a day? How do you feel when you're not doing stuff? And to also, as a parent, it is your job to say, this isn't what I want for you. And so we are going to get up on the weekend and we are going to go and run some errands and go to the grocery store because these are normal things that you need to do. This is like the daily stuff that you want your kid to learn also, because when they become an independent adult, they're going to need to know how to go to the grocery store and how to order at a restaurant. And we do so much of this for them. We cater so much. And there is a lot of conversations around, am I enabling my kid too much? Are they developing this helplessness?
100%.
Yes, it's so hard to know.
100%.
They're really anxious. They don't like doing this. And I'm like, I'm a
It's
mental
such a
health professional. I don't care that your kid is anxious about this. Do it.
It's the grocery
It's
store.
not going anywhere.
It's a fight. It's easier for me to do it than to teach them.
Yeah.
It's easier for me to do it than to constantly remind them. I'm just going to let them be.
And this is where we say balance.
Yeah.
You know?
I was talking to my son.
Is balance more like choose your battle?
Balance
when you say
is
that?
more
I
of,
don't know.
it's not necessarily choosing the battle. It's having conversations ahead of time saying, this is the expectation. We're going to do this. Where do you see yourself being able to fit into this? Where do you see yourself being able to order and advocate for yourself and walk into into Starbucks and get your own drink versus me doing it? And then it is a little bit of picking and choosing that battle. If your kid's refusing, that's where you need to say, okay, I'm out then. I'm not helping you by doing everything for you.
And it is it's, a mild example. When I was talking to my son yesterday, I was like, you've been in college for 3 weeks? Have you done your laundry? He was like, I did it twice already. I was like,
Amazing.
And he was like, oh, and by the way, he goes, both of the laundry units on our floor are broken. I was like, why? What happened? He was like, one flooded and the other one caught on fire because they didn't remove the lint tray. But it comes down to
These kids don't know how to do their own laundry.
They don't know how to do their own laundry.
Exactly.
They don't.
Yeah.
We have not set them up for success and getting them ready to do their laundry. Do your kids do their laundry?
David, where's the crickets?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you've got one that's getting ready to go off to college
know.
next year, and that's where it comes down to, like, we enable. It is easier for us to
I mean,
do
I know
it
you
than
said
to teach
we,
them.
but I felt like you were talking directly
I
to
was.
me.
I was
Let
actually.
me say too, it's never too late.
Yeah.
Even if you have a kid that's 16 years old and they don't know how to do this stuff, it's not too late. It doesn't. They're not a lost cause. You just
Yeah.
say, hey,
Christina's
listen.
like, I don't do my laundry either.
Well, that's a different story.
Yes, I do.
So it's coming back on, like, what do we do to contribute to ourself, to our home, and really it's, helping your kid identify, like, you want to be this independent, high functioning person. You don't want to be this little isolated person that orders everything on Amazon and Uber Eats because you can. It doesn't necessarily mean that you should. And, what if one day your phone, internet, your battery's dead, God forbid. And
what will happen?
And you're screwed, so.
Well, you said something earlier that I thought was, I felt really proud of myself because that it is one of the rules that we currently have in our house. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm doing one thing right. Not allowing your kids to be on their devices in their rooms. So talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, that's a great point. And I think that kind of stems back to just like the suicide awareness, suicide prevention. When you're paying attention to all the signs for your kid, if you have a kid that's overly isolating, they have ownership over their tablet, their iPads, their MacBook. And when they utilize that to go and sit in their room and be isolated all day in their room, on their screens, and you have no idea what they're watching, what they're paying attention to, who they're chatting with, what video of a YouTuber that is influencing them, and that's a huge concern too. So again, being able to really pay attention to that, being aware of what's happening, what are you watching, who's kind of guiding, some of that internal voice, those internal thoughts that you have.
Well, and I liked how you said, it forces them to be part of the community of that household.
Yeah, pull your kid out of their room. If they want to sit and watch TV, great. Back to the balance of, being on your screens, having social media. Do all of that outside of the bedroom, find spaces in the living room, set up an old desktop, in the
Shared
playroom,
space.
whatever it is, but be able to walk by, be able to, kind of hear a little bit. It doesn't mean you need to sit there and eavesdrop and, I want your kids to have privacy, and I know parents want that too, but it's paying attention to that. If you let your kid go for 6 hours in their room all day, what are they watching? What are they doing?
That's so true. And I think like we had, so between our 4 kids, we had the gaming station in the living room. As annoying as it was to not have, like, all right, kids over here, and then we can watch a show. If they wanted a game, it was on, and we didn't allow headsets because we wanted to hear. Because now in this new age of online gaming, and they're in these forums together. There are grown adults playing these games with your 10, 12-year-old, and the language that happens in that space is unbelievable. But to that point, if you're letting your 10-year-old play, an 18-plus shooter game that is really meant for adults, they're okay. You're kind of setting
That's a risk you're willing to take.
Exactly. You're not setting yourself up for success. But in our house, we had, all right, no headphones on the video games because 1, I want to see what you're playing. 2, I want to hear the conversations that you're having and whether or not this is appropriate. And then we had, until they were older, it was a no closed door policy. Like you're not allowed to close your door and lock yourself in your room. If you want to be in your room, that's one thing, but you're going to leave the door open because I want line of sight of what are you watching? What are you doing?
And I emphasize this to parents all the time because they're like, well, they already have all of this. They already do all of this. It's already the expectation.
They're gonna find a way.
And I just say, okay, change it.
Right?
And I know it's easier said than done. I get that. And then parents look at me and they go, well, my kid's going to fight with me. It's going to be awful. And I go, okay, that's fine. Let's push through that. And here's all the tools that I can give you to help you push through that. You have conversations ahead of time. You reset expectations. You reset boundaries. You reset limits. It's hard. And I tell everybody it's going to get worse before it gets better. But once you're on the other side of it, it's going to be better. And when things are better for your kid, when they feel better at home, your relationship is better with your kid. And that, at the end of the day, is really what you want. You want to have a healthy relationship with your kid. You want to have an open door policy. You want them to talk to you. If they're having a hard time thinking about hurting themselves, you want them to be able to talk to you about that.
Okay, so you've said a couple of things. One of them is, I assume, completely out of your wheelhouse, but I just want to ask it anyways in light of all of the shootings there's been just so much violence right now. So when we're talking about shooter games, do you think some of the warning signs that you talked about of just being aware of what your kid's watching, doing, all of those things that potentially applies to a kid with depression, do you think that also applies to a kid who might be up to something, who might be thinking about doing a violent act against somebody? Like, are those, I just hate that, this conversation has sparked so many things. I was listening to this big movement on putting bulletproof inserts into kids' backpacks so they can use those as shields. And I'm just feeling sick. Like, is this real? And I was talking to one of my girlfriends and she said, and she's just a couple years younger than me, shocking. And she was saying, oh, we were never even allowed to have backpacks in middle school because of school shootings. And I'm like, what? I've never even heard of that. Granted, this was on the other side of the country, but we never had those rules. But the fact that it's such a norm, it just makes me sick. But I'm wondering, on the flip side of the kids who might be thinking about hurting themselves, what about the kids who are thinking about hurting someone else?
And that's a whole other conversation for sure. But I think we've all just become so desensitized. And I think, again, it's just becoming really normalized. In light of what's happened the last few days, it's been a really heavy few days for our country, for sure. And I've bbeen having a really hard time because I just feel like it's been so political and we've just lost sight of just like the empathy that's happening for these people, these humans. And you sit there and you're just scrolling, watching something really awful happen. There's 2 examples. I don't need to say them. We all know what they are, but there's more than 2 examples, but I've just been seeing disgusting posts online of just like, BRB watching this, where I'm like, this isn't funny.
Right, it's so
not
light. I just
normal.
watched someone get murdered.
We're not supposed to see this.
And I'm celebrating.
Yeah.
Or,
And even just social media in general. I'm not supposed to see what a million other people are up to constantly to make me feel less about myself. It's so awful.
True.
Yeah.
It's awful.
It's really hard.
Okay, so probably a lot of those warning signs. I mean, it sounds like what you're saying is really just looking for changes in your kids. And I feel like a lot of these kids that have engaged in violence, the parents, friends, family are saying, man, I just saw like a big shift in him the last couple of months. So that's a big deal.
Yeah,
right. I mean,
paying attention to the signs, paying attention. And then you also, there's risk factors and risk populations, and there's a lot of other kind of statistical pieces to this as well. But there's a lot of stuff to pay attention to, and it's hard. And it's it's not like we try to overlook things, but if you do minimize, that's a concern. If you have a kid that's talking to you about that something doesn't feel right, and you say, listen, we don't talk about that in our family, or get that out of your thought, just think positive, the kid goes, oh, okay. And
never
then that's
mind,
it.
I can't talk to you about this. I
It's
think
so
that's
hard not to react.
Yeah.
though.
Yeah.
It's so hard not to react. And I think we all, and probably more so, Americans, because of our, constant work life, we don't have that rest. We don't have that good work-life balance. It is go, 40 plus hours a week. You're working nights, you're working at home. You are not paying attention. You get into your rhythm. As parents, we get into our rhythm, and we go to work, we come home, your kids come home. How was school? It was fine. How are things going? It was great. Do you have any homework? A little. Okay. And then the head goes down into the phone. And then, we're just as guilty in, all right, go. We got to do the dinner. We got to do the chores, whatever it may be, where.
Totally.
Oh, and you may get that little hair raise on the back of your neck that, something kind of seems off. But, how many of us really dig into that? How many of us really,
trust our instincts.
Trust
And I'm not saying you have to overly dig into it and overly pay attention to it. And I do think there is some validity of like, how much do I get into this? Because am I going to be giving my kid more ideas? Is this a way that they're getting attention? But then the root of that is, why is my kid trying to say this? Why is my kid needing more attention? And that's what I encourage parents to pay attention to is the why. Why is this happening? And I think that's really important, because I don't want you to have to overly feed into it. And I know life is busy. That's a great point, Bridget. Everybody is constantly on the go. And it's funny you bring up like, how was school? How was your day? How was all my clients are like, I hate those questions. I hate when I get in the car and the first thing, how was school?
What are we supposed to be saying?
I don't want to talk about. I don't know. Ask your kid who would survive a zombie apocalypse in your school. Which teacher is most likely to start a food fight? Who got detention today? What was something really weird you saw? Like, have a different conversation. I don't know. We could come up with silly questions.
I like that.
Well, and I think too, and I don't know if you guys did it or if your parents did it with you, like, I never knew what my parents actually did. Like, we just didn't talk to our children like adults. And when they got into that phase where you could communicate, and you always kind of shelter them from that adult conversation, where now it's, now I'm having these conversations. They're like, what did you do today? Like, how was your day? Like, tell me. They're asking me, like, how are your coworkers? Like, what actually do you do all day long? Like, what do you do? Yeah, Mom? What do you do? And what is your, like, what is your everyday look like? And now it's getting to the point where, just as much as we're asking them about their friends, like, who's your friends? Like, who did you talk to today? What did you do today? Like, I forget that they're people too, and then I can talk to them about, hey, what's going on at my work, and who are my colleagues.
My nephews are really good at asking me about my day. It's really cute.
It is really cute,
because I'm like, me? Who, me? Okay. Especially because what I do is I'm talking to people all day and asking them questions, and so it's kind of fun when they're like, how was your day? I'm like,
Didn't see that coming.
Yeah.
You know, my kid thought I was a doctor up until about 2 years ago. And I was like, what? He said something, and I kind of looked at him. I go, what do you think I do? And he goes, well, you're a doctor, right? And I just kind of looked at him like, no. And he goes, well, you work in a hospital. And I was like, yes. And he was like, I just assumed.
See?
I mean,
we don't talk to our kids.
You don't really know. Yeah.
You forget. You forget that this is a two-way relationship.
Yeah.
And I think that's a good point that, Bridget, you just said too, because I think too, you can go back to these conversations. There's never missed opportunities. If you feel like something was off with your kid, it's not a missed moment or an opportunity. You can go back and say, hey, 2 days ago when you brought this up, what were you trying to say? You know, do you want to talk about that again? Or, hey, I didn't give you my full attention. Now I'm ready. Do you want to talk? And they might say yes, they might say no, and you have to be okay with that. And
my God, Mom. I'm done with that.
Yeah, and end it
I
with,
don't even care.
let me know if you change your mind. Let me know if you
those
do care.
Those are really good one-liners that I need to commit to memory. I love that, of just what you just said, of like, hey, I wasn't ready to give you my full attention, but now I am. Because that happens, you know, sometimes I'll be in the middle of writing an email and my kid will start talking and I'll be like, hang on, you know, wait, hold on a second. I'm in the middle of something. And then it's like, you know, and I just look at him like, excuse me, I was doing this before you walked in here. Like, I'm not ignoring
Which
you.
is fair, right?
I'm
Like, we can't drop everything all the time.
Yes. And this is, I love the conversation about enabling our kids and setting them up for success, because often I'm looking at my kid and I think that I'm a pretty strict parent. But then I'm like, oh my gosh, maybe I'm not at all. Like, he just knows how to work me sometimes in those like really manipulative one-liners where then I end up feeling like a terrible mother because, you know, his mac and cheese has broccoli in it. Yeah, I'm kidding, but whatever it is. And then you're like, hang on a second. We are the adults. We are the parents. We are in charge. And I was about to be like, not you. And I know it's the new way is more just like, it is, your job is not to control your kids. It's to influence them. I love that line.
Yeah. And I don't think that we need to have this new way of being overly gentle all the time. I think, you know, we need to be able to validate your kids and have conversations, but you need to have firm boundaries. And if you're in the middle of doing something and your kid's interrupting you, I think it's absolutely okay to say, I'm not ready right now. I'll let you know. You're setting that boundary. And it's the same for your kid. If they're in the middle of playing a game, working on homework, studying, you know, I don't want to just make them stop what they're doing. You know, it's, hey, let me know when you're ready. That's a boundary.
The gentle, and I think that's a big part of it. Like this new gentle parenting.
It's bullshit.
A lot of it I think is bullshit.
Because they don't have the boundaries. It's the, you know, continue. I saw some video of this parent gentle parenting and their kids just beating the crap out of them with something, and they're like, I have boundaries. Whack. I have boundaries. Whack. You are hurting my feelings. How do you think this is making me feel? And the 2-year-old's like, whack, whack, whack.
Right, and I just want to grab that kid and beat their butt. You
Well,
know?
I am a mandated reporter, so let's not do that. But
I mean, you know, were you spanked growing up?
No, I was a good kid.
Oh, shut up.
No, I swear.
I will call your mom right now. That is a lie.
I didn't get spanked. I got grounded.
Okay, well, maybe you should have got spanked.
yeah,
I didn't need like the firm hand in order to make things
And
happen.
I don't
the
think we
face
need
and
it
the
now.
voice.
What is your opinion on
the
spanking?
face and the voice. Yeah, the mom voice.
The mom voice, the mom look.
Yeah.
What do you think?
I mean, you know, am I going to spank my kids? No.
Okay.
There
Are
you
you
go.
sure?
Yeah.
I mean, have they got to the point where you really are just like, I can't take
Where you
it
just
anymore?
go,
Postpartum.
You raise the hand and stop.
Postpartum is real, but yeah, I mean, there are times I am like, man, like I'm the therapist and I'm having a really hard time right now. But that's what I do with my inner voice is I say, they're not giving me a hard time, they're having a hard time. And how do I regulate myself? How do I keep myself calm? And I do my best. And I'm human, and there are times I lose it. And, you know, and I walk away, and I'm really good at repairing. That is a strength of mine. I'm very good at repairing with
I don't know,
my
Emily.
husband, with my kids, with my friends. I can own it, you know.
I've known some kids of therapists and pastors, and they're kind of the craziest. I'm just saying. I'm just kidding.
Pastors, that
Listen,
is true.
the pastor kids.
I think that one's true.
I got a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old. So
you've got some
talk
time
to them in 10 years, but I'm doing what I can right now.
I'm working my best.
I'm trying.
Gentle parenting with boundaries.
Yeah.
If you're going to gentle parent, make sure you have good boundaries. Families.
This makes me feel really happy to hear you say that it may not be all it's cracked up to be, because
it's hard. Parenting is
tough.
hard.
Parenting is hard.
It is that delicate balance of the not authoritarian, but like, how do I be their friend and their parent? And that is it. Like, you want to be kind, you want them to come to you, and you want to be open as if you were a friend. You are their friend, but you also, like you said, you need those boundaries, and that boundary is the parenting.
So if you're getting beat in the head with a spoon and you're just saying, I have boundaries, that's not the way to do it.
That's not the way to do it. No, you grab a spoon and beat back. No, I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. You don't do that, parents. But you want to. In your head, you really want to.
Let me just look the other way.
Yeah, right. All right, so I think you had a perfect segue into something that I think we should get into. I think we should take a quick commercial break, and then when we come back, I want to talk a little bit about that inner voice. And so when you talk, like, I love that you're just able to say, hey, that's a strength of mine, and there has to be some part of that inner voice that is helping you to actually feel that. And so I want to talk a little bit about how do we change the tune of that voice, because sometimes that voice can be your worst enemy. And how do we make it our greatest fan?
Yep.
Love it.
All right,
Let's
so
do it.
quick break.
On Backseat Thriver, we dive into the messy, meaningful moments of life, especially parenting and mental health, because raising kids today takes more than love. It takes support, insight, and sometimes a little help. That's where LNC Therapy makes a difference. A compassionate mental health private practice proudly serving the Tucson community. They specialize in supporting children, teens, and young adults through challenges like depression, anxiety, ADHD, anger management, grief, and more. With a team of experienced, heart-forward therapists, LNC Therapy offers personalized care that meets your family where they are, whether that's in person or via telehealth. Because every young mind deserves a safe space to grow. LNC Therapy, supporting Tucson families one session at a time. Visit them at 7493 North Oracle Road, Suite 135, or reach out and visit them on their website at hello@lndtherapy.com. Now accepting new clients.
In Marana, community isn't just where we live, it's who we are. And at the heart of it all is the Marana Chamber of Commerce. We are building a thriving community through connected business leadership. We start the month bright and early with Marana Mornings, sparking real conversations and connections. We celebrate growing networks at our 4th Tuesday mixers, hosted in exciting spaces. We unite visionaries and leaders at Impact Marana, driving meaningful progress together. We look ahead with Marana Insights, hearing directly from regional voices about what's next for our town. And we serve through the passion of our board of directors and ambassadors, creating a culture of belonging through service and leadership. Because of our members, we're not just doing more, we're becoming more. Together, we're shaping the future of Marana. We are the Marana Chamber of Commerce.
We were just, now I want some shrimp, because we were talking about your Forrest Gump voice. Okay, so. Jenny. Okay, so let's go back to that inner voice. So, Emily, give us what is normal? I mean, is it normal to be so critical of yourself? Or when would you tell someone, like, you really need to change that inner voice? Because you've talked a lot about balance, and it's not realistic that somebody's inner voice is just going to be kind all the time.
Totally.
So what can we do?
Well, and my question, what you just said, like, when is it normal? I would ask you, what do you think?
What do you think?
How many times the word
How many
normal?
times a day do you think he eats, Buck?
So that's also something that I challenge clients with, is like, what do you think feels helpful to you and what's not helpful to
Well,
you?
isn't that
And
why I'm paying you, so that you tell me?
yeah, that is a reason why you pay me for your time. But
You're not allowed to say normal, are you?
yeah, no,
we can't say normal.
We talk about how does that feel for you, right? And bringing in the feeling component to it too. But I love having conversations with clients about self-talk, about that cognitive awareness, about cognitive reframing. How do we work on these affirmations? Because it is really hard to just think positive. And I don't encourage people to just think positive, because when I was a teenager and when I was in college and my my 20s, and people were like, just change your mindset, just be happy. I wanted to punch you in the face.
Right.
It did not work. It was really hard.
You cannot choose to be happy. Like, yes, you can choose your perspective and all of that. But I think telling somebody who is inherently sad, just choose happiness, is like,
It's hard.
Just surround yourself with happy things.
Yeah.
And puppies.
And it's difficult
Yeah.
because when somebody is so in it, feeling really depressed and hopeless and worthless, it's really hard to climb out of that. And so it is a lot about finding that balance and finding that compassion. And so I talk to clients, when you have a negative mindset, it's not about denying that. It's about accepting the reality of that situation. And it's about bringing in compassion and bringing in balance with those thoughts, because the goal is to be able to believe both truths with your negative thoughts and to change it, to be able to kind of acknowledge, like, this is the direction that I've been going. I've been very black and white with my thinking. So how can I bring in that balance? I'm just a broken record with this word, I guess, to be able to have it feel more believable and to start to flip that thought. So for example, if I do something wrong and I say, gosh, I always screw things up. I'm always doing this wrong. I'm never good enough. It's working on accepting that reality of, okay, I'm really unhappy with how this situation turned out, but then bringing in that compassion of saying, but I'm capable of making change. I'm capable of being successful. Or I failed this test, but I've passed before. Or I'm letting my husband down, but there's been times I've been able to show up and do good. And so it's just being able to kind of acknowledge and accept that this situation happened, but here's what I'm going to do to be a little bit nicer and kinder to myself. And it takes a lot of practice.
It does. I think, and I think too, it's, obviously, as you were saying, Christina, if you are a depressed person, or you have whatever the clinical diagnosis is, or whatever the imbalance is, that's one thing, and then your environment is another. But I also feel like when we talk about that inner voice and we talk about that kindness, is your own expectations, like, and how do you, and maybe it's set by us as parents, like, you need to get straight A's, you need to make sure you're the best on the team, you need to always do all of these things, right? But it's, do we ingrain those types of behaviors in our children? So now our children are like, I need to be the best. I need to, a B is not acceptable. And, and then now they have this increased anxiety and they have this performance, like, what?
Yeah. And then you call me.
And exactly.
Yeah.
But it is. And I feel like this generation is becoming so much more anxious. So much more anxious. And I mean, is there
do you
anything?
think it's just the generation of kids, or do you think it's everyone?
I think everyone, but I am seeing it more in our children than I ever did before. And I don't know if it's these things. I
blame all of this. My kid has been acting a fool lately, and so he lost all technology. And it's been a couple of weeks, and I have to say, it has been game changer. My kid, he's so motivated by devices and screen time that it would be like, okay, did you finish your chores? And he's like a tornado. And in 2 seconds, okay, I'm done. Can I watch the screen now? I'm like, no, now you have to go clean up the dog poop. And it's like 20 seconds. Okay, I'm done. Can I watch the screen? It was like everything was just to get to the end result. It's like eating your dinner so fast just so you can get to dessert. And we are finding this sounds so lame, like the beauty in just normal things. Like, he's sitting in the pool and he's swimming in the pool and I'm just out there watching him and we're listening to music and it's slow and it's calm because he before I'd be like, go swimming. Okay. In 10 minutes later, okay, I'm done now. Can I get 20 minutes of screen time? He knows that's not an option. And so we're just enjoying the present. And it has been so nice that I keep looking for excuses to ban technology. I'm like, you didn't tie your shoe. You lost your screens for a week. And it is, my life with him is just different. It is so much better without technology.
So how do you maintain that balance without grounding him all the time?
Well,
from
you know, a lot
devices?
of drinking, right? Just kidding. That's what I think is hard, right? Because I know this is not a forever thing.
Right.
You know, I can't take it away from him forever. And as you said, it's not going anywhere. So to me, it feels like that has to be a hard boundary where before, while, you know, I'm doing laundry and all the things and it's like, he can watch a movie. And then now one movie has turned into two and it's like, where did our afternoon go? It is, so it's those hard boundaries, which it's not easy. And that's why you avoid it because it's just better for
Does he
everyone.
notice the difference? Like, does he say anything, or is his life just in turmoil?
That's a great
like,
question.
Is
Have you checked in with him about
I
it?
have not
There you
asked
go.
him that. That's a great question.
Because you see it, like you see the difference, but does he like this new normal, or is
Questions are great. Anytime kids are having a lot of anxiety, I tell parents, ask them questions, put it back on them, get them processing on their own about it. What do you think you should do? What do you think is helpful? How's this been spending more time with mom? What's it like not rushing back to your computer? Yeah. See if he has any awareness on that.
I like that.
Yeah.
I think we as parents, we forget to ask the questions, or we're afraid to ask the wrong ones, or I don't know. I think there's
It is. I am afraid to ask the wrong questions.
Why?
Because sometimes it feels like the results could be catastrophic or something. Or did I just plant a seed that I didn't mean to plant by asking that question? Or asking him about his 6th grade girlfriend. I'm like, by asking that, now is he going to think like he needs to put more effort and energy, where I'm like, you're 11, kid. Like, you don't get to have a girlfriend right now. Focus on school. But by asking about it, is he now like, oh yeah, her, I should go take her to the movies or whatever.
I mean, maybe yes and no. It's all a spectrum. It's all going to be decide how you want that narrative and those conversations to go. But I never think there's anything wrong with asking those questions, being a part of the conversation. You want your kid to talk to you. You want to build that relationship with your kid. You circle back on things. And a lot of times parents are like, every time I ask my kid questions, they yell at me, or I'm on eggshells about it, or I don't want to talk about it. And then I just say, that's up to you. Whatever your family values, whatever your dynamic is, that's okay. I'm not here to criticize any of it, whatever feels comfortable and safe for you guys. But if there's questions you're not wanting to ask because you're scared to plant that seed, I always say, why are you scared to ask that? Why are you scared to plant that seed? And typically it's because, well, maybe they're already thinking of it and I don't want that seed to grow. And it's like, again, you want to be a part of that. If there's a little seed growing about something, or if they're wondering, do I need to have straight A's to get into college? Do I need to be putting all of my effort into my girlfriend? My friend isn't talking to me. What does this mean? Like, you want to be there for them. You want to be able to show up and talk about situations you experienced and times you felt. You want to normalize. It's okay to feel stressed and worried about this. Here's how we can help. Here's how we can problem solve together. And they might say no and not want your help. And then you say, okay, let me know if you change your mind. I'm here.
That's so good. And
That is good.
And I think, as parents, we're not as honest with them about our experiences because, oh my God, if I let them know what I did, I'm condoning it for them. So one of the things that we used to do was, so I had a friend. I had this friend in high school that did X, Y, and Z.
They're like, right,
and
Mom.
here's what they learned from it. They told me this later on in life, that this is, maybe you should take that advice. Yeah. So it was
Real life examples are great.
Real life examples are
It brings
so
a lot of
good.
awareness. Yeah.
And I think, I know I did it. I used to ask yes or no response questions.
Totally.
And then I'd get pissed off if they gave me a yes or no. And I'm like, well, then why the hell do I keep asking these questions that are the response could be yes or no. They're not going to, so mom, so this is what I did today, and this is exactly how the quest went, and
The quest.
The quest, yeah, the quest. This is my kids are very medieval.
Are they? That just means they're weird.
You know what? Quit judging my children, Christina.
Oh, look,
but
I see
it
where you
is.
raised
It's
them.
you can't expect your kids to give you like this very detailed response when you gave them the option to answer yes or no.
And when you are able to be a part of those conversations too and giving those real life examples, you normalize, your failures. You normalize times that you made mistakes or times you got in trouble with your parents and what that was like. And then your kid kind of sees you in a different light of being like, oh, so I don't need to be perfect, or, oh, you're not going to be mad about this.
Bridget, you got a long list to share with them. Do they know about all your shenanigans?
They're almost all adults.
Almost.
Actually, they are all adults. They're all over 18.
Does that mean everything comes out?
Well, if they want to listen to the podcast, they'll hear a lot
They
of
know
it.
about Bridget being grounded for her entire high school career.
They do know. That they do know. They figured that one out early. And they all became very honest children after that. Like, just be honest with me. Just let me know.
Yeah. Well, I think that's funny what you said because it's so true of we're not being that honest with our kids. I found myself even yesterday, and I was like, this is a perfect example for the podcast, where I was watching the news on these shootings and everything happening, and my kid comes up and he's like, what are you looking at? And I was like, nothing, and I stopped and I said, what good is this doing? He knows I'm looking at something, it's not nothing. And does that allow him to have that same like nothing, So I said, I'm reading the news on all of these awful things that are happening. And then he started asking questions, and we had sort of a long conversation about it. And, he ended up watching a little bit of news on the TV with me, and it was a conversation starter. Yeah. And I think that as parents, we're so afraid to plant these seeds of ugliness. Like I don't want my child to know that people out there murder people. Well, for God's sakes, he's doing active shooter drills in school. Like, why wouldn't I be having these honest conversations with him?
And that's a great question. Why wouldn't I have this honest conversation? If my kid doesn't feel well mentally, physically, emotionally, why wouldn't I ask? Why wouldn't I try to be a part of that?
So I love that, being a part of these conversations with your kids. And our kids are tougher than we think they are, right? They can
100%.
They can handle, because they probably already know these things, these conversations, these things we're scared to bring up. They're already talking about it.
They're talking about it with their friends at school who are sharing their examples, their ideas, their beliefs from their parents and from their families. And what if your family values don't align with that family's value? And then that's what your kid is hearing, which is fine. Everybody has different beliefs and value systems at home. That's totally fine. But that's that influence.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it is really sad that we're just like desensitizing our kids to shooters and, shootings. And the example you brought up about the bulletproof shields and backpacks, I've been seeing that around on school supplies list. Mom on social media talked about how that was part of her kid's school supply list.
That is so sad.
And they showed a video of the mom doing, quote unquote drills with the kid at home. And the kid would run and put the backpack in front of them, and they'd get in a corner and put the backpack in front of them. And it was, first graders, second graders. They were really little. Yeah.
That just makes me sick.
But it even to, and again, I'm not a doomsdayer. I'm a prepper. I've said this. I've said this many times. But even dropping dropping my kid. That I am not. Dropping my kid off at college. Like there's one way in, one way out of town. Like, hey, you're in a mountain town. If this mountain catches on fire and you can't go that way, you go this way. Like even the littlest things like that. Like we prepare ourselves for all the things, but the fact that our children, we hid under a desk because of atomic bomb attack, right? Like,
is that what they did in the 1960s?
When you hear the sirens, get under your desk, children. That's what we did. But now it's
different conversations.
It's so different, and it's scary. It's scary for us as adults, and our kids are growing up in this quote unquote normalcy of this new society.
And do we just need
active
to
shooter
accept
drills.
that? Like, do we just, is the sooner that we embrace the fact that that a bulletproof shield is going to be on our school supply list, the better that we'll be? The more that we accept it. I mean, just as you said, social media is not going anywhere.
Yeah.
School shootings sure as hell aren't going anywhere.
Yeah. My brother was telling me that he had brought up an example of how my 3-year-old should start being able to know how to use a tablet. And I was like, absolutely not. And he was like, this is going to be what, is going to be in schools in 10 years. They're not going to be writing anymore. And I was like, oh, I hope that's not the case. But do we need to accept it? It's what your family values, what your beliefs are, what you want for your kid. I mean, it's, I guess, not what you want, because nobody really wants to have to do any of this, but it's just accepting it. You either get on board or not, but it's be a part of that conversation.
I love being a part of the conversation is something that we have not done enough of. And, we expect the schools to teach our children about this. We expect the schools to, to educate them on, all of the things, whether it's safety, school shooters, sex ed, all of these things. And you realize, like, my kids know so much more. And there's a reason why there was a very famous, are you smarter than a 5th grader? No. You're at that point right now, Christina, where your kid is very, very smart, and you need to harness that relationship and continue that.
And it's so hard, because do I think this is creating an anxious generation? I do. I do think a lot of kids are really, really anxious. And I do think there's a lot of extreme irrational beliefs and thoughts. You said you're a prepper, not a doomsday person, which is, great. I love that. And it's just really hard, because I think our kids are just absorbing so much of this.
Absolutely.
And that's why you work on that voice of saying, what's rational, what's not.
We're still learning that as adults.
We are.
Which is why it's probably so scary to talk to our kids about it.
Yeah, when it's something you haven't even mastered.
And we don't always model it either. We say, really loudly, like, I'm always late, or that was so stupid, or, I burnt dinner. Like, we're really negative. We're really critical of ourselves too, and our kids soak all that up. So.
Mom, you're making me late again.
Did
you hear that a lot?
Yeah, well, shut up. It's more like... No, I think that's one of the hardest parts about being a parent, is saying things like that. And then when you reflect on your own self as a parent, you're like, oh my gosh, now I see exactly
do as I say,
where
not as I do. Do as I say, not as I do.
It's so
And
hard.
you can repair that.
Yeah.
Talk to him about it. Man, mom's really been rushing you a lot lately. Let's work on this. What do you think would be helpful in the mornings? Here's what I'm going to do. Have conversations about it.
All right, why is everyone looking at me about this tardiness thing, okay? I feel like...
hey, you've owned it. I don't know how many episodes.
Whatever.
Yeah, it's what you were doing to get your
I'm
kid
changing
ready.
my inner voice, and it's telling me that I'm on time. And
your outer voice, a.k.a. Bridget, is telling you, get your shit together.
There's so
that's
much on
right.
that inner and outer voice.
Right?
There's so much external noise that we deal with constantly.
Yes, Bridget, you're just external noise. Okay, so Emily, if you were going to tell our listeners, if we're going to kind of sum some of these things up, a couple of tips about, just refresh us a little bit on what are we doing with that inner voice? What are some of the signs that we need to be paying attention to with our kids? And then remind us about the repairing, because I think that is something that everybody could take away from this. And that's a pretty easy thing to put into practice. I'm sure everyone can think of one example of something that they did in the last few days that might not have been great.
Sure, yeah. So I would say, kind of summing up for that inner voice, is don't deny the reality, accept the truth, and be able to bring in compassion and balance to yourself with that inner voice, and being able to model that a little bit more for your kid, being able to circle back with your kids, repair. If you feel like you lost it and you did something wrong, repair it, own it, bring it back and say, hey, this was not okay of me. And let's see.
And then what else would you say about some of the warning signs for parents to be paying attention to with their kids? I think one of the best things that you said, pull your kids out of their room.
Yeah, increased isolation is a really, really big sign and a big trigger for depression. We're not meant to be by ourselves. We're social creatures. And so the more that you see your kid overly isolating, being withdrawn, sleeping more, coming home from school, wanting to sleep until dinner, not hanging out with their friends anymore, those are things that you need to pay attention to. Grades dropping, pay attention to that. If they start skipping school, obviously risky behaviors, reckless behaviors. If they start dabbling in substance use, and you're catching them, just having that awareness is going to be really important. You want to be in the know versus on the outs.
I love that.
Pay attention.
I think my biggest takeaway is just you want to be part of the conversation.
Be engaged, be aware.
Yeah.
Parents, open your eyes and just know who your kids are.
Yeah.
I think
and when
that's
your
the
kid is
biggest
talking
thing.
about scary stuff and you don't know what to say, just listen, and take some time to think about it. You don't have to have the answer right away. You don't have to have the consequence in place right away. If they're talking about suicide and you're like, oh my gosh, this is terrifying, it's okay if you don't know what to say. You're not supposed to. That's the other thing. We didn't even talk on that. You're not supposed to. You're not a mental health professional. A lot of parents are, a lot of parents aren't. And it's okay to not know what to say. Just be present, sit there, listen, talk about how that feels scary, you're concerned about that, and you want to be able to talk to them more about it. And if they say, oh, it's fine, I don't need to talk about it, reminding them, I'm here if you need me. Let me know. I always have your back. I'm on your side.
I love that.
I love it.
Man, all right. Well, I think that was, I feel like I want to go kick some ass right now. Not for real.
I want to go hug my kid.
I want to go, be a great parent.
I want to go hug my kid.
Love it.
Yeah,
Great.
I do.
Oh, you'll get to tonight.
I do. It's so exciting.
You lucky bee.
No, we always love you, Emily.
Thanks
we
for
love
having
your
me. It's great.
your insight, your message, your compassion, and just being here with us, and not only hopefully some of the kids listen to this, but if not, I hope that our parent listeners, our besties out there, got something out of it.
And if something was said that you feel like you need extra support, Emily, tell us where people can
I do
find
a lot
you.
of parent coaching. I do consultation calls.
And you've got a team.
I've got a team. I've got my own practice. I've got a team practice now. You can find me at elevatedtherapyaz.com, or our team practice is lnctherapy.com. We're here to help.
Okay. So give them a call if you feel like you need some extra support.
Thanks again, Emily.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. See you guys next week.
Next week.
Bye,
Thank
besties.
you.